Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the 11th episode of our historical journey through the Ottoman Empire. I'm your host from AI Deen Vision, and today we explore the reign of Sultan Suleiman I, known to Europeans as the Magnificent, and to his own people as Kanun-i, or the Lawgiver. His extraordinary 46-year reign from 1520 to 1566 represents the absolute pinnacle of Ottoman power, prosperity, and cultural achievement. Join us as we discover how under one man's visionary leadership the Ottoman Empire transformed from a regional power into a global superpower that dominated 3 continents and shaped world history for centuries to come. Early life and education, 1494 to 1520. Born in November 1494 in Trabzon, young Suleiman was the only surviving son of Sultan Selim I and Hafsa Sultan. Unlike many Ottoman princes who received primarily military training, Suleiman received an exceptional education in science, history, literature, theology, and warfare. He studied poetry, mathematics, geography, astronomy, and several languages including Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. His grandfather, Sultan Bayezid II, took special interest in Suleiman's education, recognizing the boy's extraordinary intelligence and potential. From an early age, Suleiman displayed remarkable curiosity about the world and a voracious appetite for knowledge. His tutors included some of the empire's most renowned scholars, who exposed him to both Islamic and classical European traditions of learning. At age 7, following Ottoman tradition, Suleiman was appointed governor of Kaffa, modern Feodosia, in Crimea, though his duties were largely performed by advisors while he continued his education. Later, as a teenager, he governed the province of Manisa, where he gained practical administrative experience and developed his leadership abilities. When his father Selim I launched his successful campaign against the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt in 1516-17, Suleiman served as regent in Istanbul, demonstrating his administrative competence and earning the respect of the empire's senior officials. This experience proved invaluable, giving him insight into the complexities of managing a vast, multi-ethnic empire. When Selim I died suddenly in 1520, the 26-year-old Suleiman inherited an empire already in a powerful position, controlling Anatolia, the Balkans, the Levant, and recently conquered Egypt. The treasury was full, the military formidable, and the administrative system functioning efficiently. What distinguished Suleiman from many inheritors of great empires was his determination not merely to maintain his inheritance but to dramatically expand and improve upon it. Military conquests and expansion. 1521 to 1566, Suleiman quickly demonstrated his military prowess. In 1521, just months after ascending the throne, he led a campaign that captured Belgrade, a fortress that had resisted Ottoman forces for decades and represented the gateway to Central Europe. This victory sent shockwaves through European capitals. The campaign revealed Suleiman's personal military leadership style. Unlike many monarchs who directed operations from a distance, Suleiman actively participated in planning and was present on the battlefield, inspiring his troops through personal example. His strategy at Belgrade demonstrated sophisticated understanding of artillery deployment and siege tactics, overwhelming the city's formidable defenses. The following year, he turned his attention to the Mediterranean, conquering the island of Rhodes after a 6-month siege, expelling the Knights Hospitaller who had long disrupted Ottoman maritime activities. The siege tested Ottoman persistence through a harsh winter, but Suleiman maintained morale through his personal presence and determination. Showing remarkable generosity and victory, he allowed the knights to depart with their weapons and treasures, establishing his reputation for magnanimity even toward Christian enemies. In 1526 came perhaps his most decisive victory, the Battle of Mohács. After careful preparation and a massive mobilization of forces, Ottoman armies under Suleiman's direct command utterly crushed the Hungarian army in less than 2 hours of combat. King Louis II of Hungary drowned while fleeing the battlefield, effectively ending Hungarian independence for centuries. The Hungarian crown lands were divided between Ottoman direct rule and vassalage, pushing Ottoman borders deep into Central Europe. Suleiman personally led the campaign, demonstrating tactical brilliance in the deployment of his superior artillery and janissary infantry. The victory at Mohács represented not just territorial gain, but the defeat of one of the major powers standing between the Ottoman Empire and Central Europe. The psychological impact throughout Christian Europe was profound, triggering panic and calls for crusade. In 1529, Suleiman launched his most ambitious campaign, the First Ottoman Siege of Vienna. Leading a massive army northward, he intended to strike at the heart of Habsburg power, Though ultimately unsuccessful due to early winter weather, extended supply lines, and determined Habsburg defense, the campaign demonstrated the astounding reach of Ottoman power. The mere fact that Ottoman forces could threaten the Habsburg capital struck terror throughout Western Christendom. The campaign revealed both the extent and limits of Ottoman logistical capabilities. While the empire could project power deeper into Europe than any Muslim state had ever done, the challenges of distance, weather, and supply lines would ultimately constrain further westward expansion. Nevertheless, the psychological impact was immense. Habsburg Emperor Charles V, who controlled vast territories across Europe and the Americas, had been forced to recognize the Ottoman Sultan as an equal power on the world stage. Under Suleiman's leadership, the Ottoman navy achieved Mediterranean dominance. He appointed the legendary corsair Barbarossa Hayreddin Pasha as Grand Admiral, who built the Ottoman fleet into the Mediterranean's most powerful naval force. Barbarossa's naval genius combined with Suleiman's strategic vision and financial backing created an unparalleled maritime power. The 1538 Battle of Preveza saw Barbarossa defeat a much larger Holy League fleet commanded by Andrea Doria, establishing Ottoman naval supremacy in the eastern Mediterranean for decades. Ottoman ships controlled major maritime routes, much of the North African coast, and even conducted raids as far as the North Atlantic. This naval dominance secured Ottoman trade, protected pilgrim routes to Mecca, and projected power throughout the Mediterranean basin. In the east, Suleiman fought multiple campaigns against Safavid Persia, capturing Baghdad in 1534 and securing Iraq for the empire. These eastern campaigns were motivated by both strategic considerations, securing the empire's eastern flank, and religious factors, as the Ottomans positioned themselves as defenders of Sunni orthodoxy against Safavid Shi'ism. The 1534 campaign demonstrated Suleiman's remarkable energy and leadership. He personally led his army on an epic march across Anatolia into Safavid territory, capturing Tabriz before proceeding to Baghdad. When the city surrendered, Suleiman made a ceremonial entry, visiting the tombs of Abu Hanifa and Abdul Qadir Gilani, demonstrating his respect for Islamic scholarship and Sufi tradition. By securing control over Mecca and Medina during his reign, Suleiman adopted the title of Caliph and positioned himself as leader of the Sunni Muslim world. This religious authority complemented his political and military power, giving him unprecedented prestige throughout the Islamic world. By the end of his reign, the Ottoman Empire stretched from Algeria to the Persian Gulf and from the outskirts of Vienna to Yemen, an area exceeding 2 million square miles. This vast territory encompassed diverse populations, cultures, and resources that made the Ottomans the world's most powerful state. The empire controlled major trade routes between east and west, dominated key agricultural regions, and possessed the human and material resources to field armies and fleets larger than any European power could muster. Administrative reforms and legal legacy. While his military achievements earned him the title Magnificent in Europe, within the Ottoman Empire, Suleiman was called Kanun-i, the Lawgiver. This title reflected his most enduring achievement, the comprehensive reformation of Ottoman legal and administrative systems. Suleiman ordered a complete revision of the legal system, creating a new legal code called the Kanun-i Osmani, Ottoman law. This sweeping reform standardized and codified existing practices that had evolved haphazardly over centuries, reformed taxation systems to be more equitable and efficient, reducing corruption, eliminated arbitrary punishments that had varied by region and official, created a more merit-based system for government appointments, protected the rights of all subjects including non-Muslims, standardized criminal and civil procedures across the empire, regulated markets, guilds and commercial activities, established clear rules for land ownership and inheritance. The Sultan personally presided over the Imperial Council, Divan-i Humayun, twice weekly, demonstrating his hands-on approach to governance. Under his direction, the administrative system was restructured into a more efficient bureaucracy capable of managing his vast territories. He appointed officials based on merit rather than birth or connections, creating a more professional civil service. Suleiman's legal reforms extended to the military as well. He reorganized the Janissary Corps, improving training and discipline while maintaining their elite status. He standardized the Timar system, land grants to cavalry officers, ensuring that military officers received appropriate compensation while agricultural lands remained productive. His regulations governing urban guilds helped maintain quality standards in manufacturing and commerce. Guilds were given clearer legal standing, with specific rights and responsibilities that balanced the interests of producers, consumers, and the state. This system helped maintain social stability in Ottoman cities while ensuring economic prosperity. Perhaps most remarkably, Suleiman's legal code provided significant protections for religious minorities within the empire. Under the millet system, non-Muslim communities were granted considerable autonomy in managing their internal religious and civil affairs. While non-Muslims paid additional taxes, they enjoyed freedom of worship, protection of property rights, and communal self-governance, a stark contrast to the religious persecution common in contemporary Europe, where the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, whose realm, his religion, often led to forced conversions and expulsions. Suleiman appointed judges, qadis, throughout the empire who were expected to apply the law fairly regardless of a person's religion or social status. Court records from the period show cases where Christians and Jews successfully sued Muslims, including government officials, something unimaginable in most other societies of the era. The comprehensive nature of Suleiman's legal reforms created a system of governance that would endure for centuries. The Kanun-i Osmani remained the foundation of Ottoman law until the 19th century, providing stability and predictability that facilitated the empire's long-term survival despite numerous challenges. The cultural renaissance Suleiman's reign coincided with an extraordinary flowering of Ottoman culture, art, and architecture. He was himself a gifted poet, writing under the pen name Muhibi, composing over 3,000 poems in his lifetime. His verses explored themes of divine love, human emotion, and philosophical reflection, demonstrating sophisticated literary technique and spiritual depth. The Sultan's patronage of the arts was unparalleled in Ottoman history. He maintained a circle of poets, scholars, musicians, and artists at court, fostering an atmosphere of cultural creativity and intellectual engagement. Under his patronage, Ottoman culture achieved a distinctive synthesis of Turkish, Persian, Arabic, and Byzantine influences that reflected the empire's multicultural character. Suleiman commissioned the legendary architect Mimar Sinan to build magnificent structures across the empire. Born a Christian in Anatolia and converted to Islam through the Devshirme system, Sinan rose to become history's greatest Islamic architect. His masterpieces include the Süleymaniye Mosque complex in Istanbul, a structure rivaling the Hagia Sophia in grandeur, yet expressing distinctly Ottoman architectural principles, and the Selimiye Mosque in Edirne. The Süleymaniye complex exemplifies Ottoman urban planning at its finest. Beyond the mosque itself, it included madrasas, theological schools, a hospital, a medical college, public baths, a caravanserai, and a soup kitchen for the poor. This integration of religious, educational, medical, and charitable functions in a single architectural complex demonstrated the holistic Ottoman vision of society. Literature flourished under Suleiman's patronage. The period saw the emergence of great Ottoman poets like Baki, whose elegiac poem on Suleiman's death remains a masterpiece of Turkish literature, and Fuzuli, whose works in Turkish, Persian, and Arabic demonstrated the multilingual character of Ottoman high culture. Historical chronicles by scholars like Mustafa Ali and Kemal Pasazadeh documented the empire's achievements for posterity. Miniature painting reached new heights of refinement, particularly in the works of Nakas Osman and Matrakçı Nasu. These artists developed distinctively Ottoman styles that departed from Persian models, depicting historical events, military campaigns, and court ceremonies with unprecedented realism and attention to detail. The illustrated manuscript Süleymannameh, chronicling Suleiman's reign, represents one of the finest achievements of Ottoman visual art. Scientific learning advanced significantly during this period. The observatory established by Taqi al-Din in Istanbul produced astronomical observations and calculations that surpassed contemporary European work in accuracy. Advances in medicine included sophisticated surgical techniques, pharmacology, and hospital administration. Ottoman physicians like Serafeddin Sabuncuoglu produced illustrated medical manuals that influenced practice throughout the Islamic world. The decorative arts, carpet weaving, ceramics, calligraphy, metalwork, and textiles, achieved unprecedented sophistication. Iznik pottery, with its distinctive blue and red floral designs, became synonymous with Ottoman aesthetic refinement, and was exported throughout the world. Ottoman textiles, particularly silk brocades and velvets with floral patterns, were prized luxury goods that influenced European fashion and design. Calligraphy, considered the noblest of Islamic arts, flourished under Suleiman. Master calligraphers like Ahmet Karahisari developed distinctive styles that adorned manuscripts, architectural inscriptions, and administrative documents. The refined visual culture that emerged during this period created a distinctive Ottoman aesthetic that balanced geometric precision with naturalistic imagery. Music also flourished during Suleiman's reign. The Ottoman court maintained orchestras and choirs that performed complex compositions in the classical makam system. Composers like Buhurizadeh Mustafa Itri created works that remained in the repertoire for centuries. The integration of Turkish, Arab, and Persian musical elements created a distinctive Ottoman classical tradition. Personal life and court dynamics. Suleiman's personal life was as remarkable as his public achievements. Breaking with centuries of Ottoman tradition, he legally married his favorite concubine, Hurrem Sultan, known in Europe as Roxolana, an extraordinary development in Ottoman dynastic practice. Born Alexandra Lisowska in what is now Ukraine, Hurrem entered the imperial harem as a slave concubine. Her extraordinary intelligence, charm, and political acumen helped her rise to become Suleiman's most trusted companion. Their partnership represents one of history's most consequential royal marriages, fundamentally altering Ottoman palace dynamics and succession practices. The Sultan's devotion to Hurrem broke with the practice of sending royal consorts to provincial courts once they had borne sons. Instead, Hurrem remained in Istanbul, becoming a powerful force in court politics. She established charitable foundations, including mosques, schools, hospitals, and public kitchens, extending her influence throughout society. Their surviving correspondence reveals both genuine affection and intellectual partnership. Suleiman wrote passionate poetry to Hurrem, while her letters to him during military campaigns show political astuteness and emotional intelligence. As the Sultan's confidant, Hurrem influenced diplomatic relations, particularly with Poland, Lithuania, and Muscovy, Russia, regions she knew from her youth. Their union produced 5 sons and a daughter, creating intense succession rivalries within the dynasty. In 1553, in a tragic chapter of Suleiman's reign, he ordered the execution of his eldest son, Mustafa, born to another concubine, after suspecting him of plotting against the throne, a decision possibly influenced by Hurrem's promotion of her own son's interests. This execution shocked Ottoman society, as Mustafa had been popular and widely seen as a capable heir. The incident revealed the darker side of Ottoman succession politics and the intense pressures of maintaining dynastic continuity in an empire where multiple sons could claim legitimacy. Beyond his immediate family, Suleiman cultivated a sophisticated court culture that reflected imperial power and refinement. Court ceremonies became increasingly elaborate, with precisely defined protocols that emphasized the Sultan's unique status. The imperial palace at Topkapi was expanded and embellished, creating specialized spaces for various functions of governance, diplomacy, and private life. The Sultan's relationship with his Grand Viziers also shaped governance significantly. Ibrahim Pasha, Suleiman's childhood friend who served as Grand Vizier from 1523 to 1536, exercised unprecedented authority until his execution for alleged overreach. Later Grand Viziers like Rustam Pasha, Hurrem's son-in-law, and Sokolu Mehmed Pasha managed daily governance while the Sultan focused on strategic matters, foreign relations and diplomacy. Suleiman established sophisticated diplomatic relations with powers across Europe, Asia, and Africa. His most audacious diplomatic innovation was the Franco-Ottoman alliance with King Francis I of France against their common Habsburg enemies, a partnership that scandalized Christian Europe but demonstrated the Sultan's pragmatic approach to international relations. This alliance represented the first formal diplomatic partnership between a major European Christian power and the Ottoman Empire. It included not just military coordination, but commercial agreements, cultural exchanges, and regular diplomatic missions. French ambassadors became permanent fixtures at the Ottoman court, while Ottoman representatives traveled to Paris, establishing precedents for modern diplomatic practice. Suleiman exchanged ambassadors with Venice, Poland, Lithuania, Russia, and even distant powers like the Sultanate of Aceh in Indonesia. Ottoman diplomatic correspondence from this period reveals a sophisticated understanding of international politics and balance of power strategies. The Sultan maintained an extensive intelligence network that kept him informed of developments throughout Europe and Asia. He granted extensive trade privileges to French merchants through capitulations agreements, laying the foundation for the capitulation system that would later become problematic for Ottoman sovereignty. These agreements facilitated commerce while extending Ottoman diplomatic influence, though in later centuries they would be exploited by European powers to gain economic advantages. Suleiman simultaneously maintained the Ottoman economy's competitive edge through strategic control of trade routes and key commodities. The conquest of Egypt and Iraq secured access to lucrative trade with India and East Asia, while naval dominance in the eastern Mediterranean protected shipping lanes. Ottoman commercial regulations encouraged domestic manufacturing and exports, while managing imports to maintain a favorable balance of trade. The Sultan's diplomacy extended to the Islamic world as well. He built alliances with Muslim states in Central Asia and India, positioning himself as the leader of Sunni Islam against Safavid Shi'ism. His support for Muslim communities under non-Muslim rule from Spain to Southeast Asia enhanced Ottoman prestige throughout the Islamic world. Later years and legacy, 1550 to 1566. In his final years, Suleiman became less directly involved in military campaigns, delegating more authority to his Grand Vizier Sokolu Mehmed Pasha. The death of Hurrem Sultan in 1558 affected him deeply, leading to a period of mourning and increased religious devotion. He commissioned the Suleymaniye Mosque partly as a tribute to her memory, ensuring that they would be buried side by side. Despite advancing age and reportedly suffering from gout, Suleiman refused to abandon his military responsibilities. At age 71, he personally led his 13th military campaign into Hungary in 1566, demonstrating remarkable stamina and determination even in old age. This final campaign targeted the fortress of Zigitvar, defended by the Croatian-Hungarian nobleman Nikola Subic Zrinski. During the siege of Sigitvar, Suleiman died in his tent on September 7, 1566. To prevent disarray in the army, Grand Vizier Sokolu kept the Sultan's death secret for weeks until his son Selim II could secure the throne, a testament to the vizier's loyalty and political acumen. The fortress fell shortly after Suleiman's death, but the delay caused by the siege prevented further Ottoman advance that season. Upon his death, the Ottoman Empire stood at its absolute zenith, a global superpower with unmatched military might, cultural sophistication, and economic prosperity. European observers called him the Magnificent for good reason. The empire he built seemed invincible. His 46-year reign had transformed the Ottoman state from a regional power to the world's most formidable empire. Yet even at this moment of supreme achievement, subtle signs of future challenges had emerged. The Ottoman economy faced inflationary pressures from American silver entering global markets through European trade networks. Military technology was advancing rapidly in Europe, beginning to erode Ottoman tactical advantages. The very size of the empire created enormous administrative challenges that would test his successors. Suleiman's legacy extended far beyond his territorial conquests. His legal reforms created an administrative system that would sustain the empire for centuries. His cultural patronage produced architectural masterpieces that still dominate Istanbul's skyline. His diplomatic innovations established patterns of international relations that shaped European and Middle Eastern history. Perhaps most significantly, Suleiman established an imperial model that balanced central authority with local autonomy, religious orthodoxy with practical tolerance, and traditional values with administrative innovation. This flexible, pragmatic approach to governance enabled the Ottoman Empire to adapt to changing circumstances and survive for another 3.5 centuries after his death. Sultan Suleiman's 46-year reign represents the pinnacle of Ottoman achievement, a golden age of territorial expansion, institutional development, cultural flowering, and international prestige. Under his leadership, the Ottoman Empire achieved a level of power, sophistication, and prestige unmatched by any contemporary state. His military conquests created an empire spanning 3 continents, controlling the most strategically valuable territories in the eastern Mediterranean world. His legal reforms established governance systems that would endure for centuries, balancing central authority with practical administration of diverse populations. His cultural patronage produced artistic and architectural masterpieces that still inspire awe today. Perhaps most remarkably, Suleiman achieved all this while maintaining relative religious tolerance and social stability within his multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire. At a time when Europe was torn apart by religious warfare following the Protestant Reformation, the Ottoman Empire under Suleiman offered a contrasting model of governance that accommodated diversity within a coherent imperial framework. As we conclude this episode, we must ask, Could such an extraordinary golden age be sustained by Suleiman's successors? Or would the very size and complexity of the empire he created present challenges too great to overcome? The answer lies in understanding the profound transition that began with Suleiman's death, when the empire stopped expanding and began the long, complex process of adapting to a changing world. Join us in our next episode as we explore how Suleiman's son, Selim II, faced the monumental task of following in his father's footsteps and maintaining an empire at its territorial peak. Thank you for watching this episode of Rise and Fall of the Ottoman Empire on AI Deen Vision. If you appreciated this deep historical journey, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing with fellow history enthusiasts. Activate the notification bell to be alerted when episode 12 on Sultan Selim II releases. We value your thoughts and questions in the comments below. For those wishing to support our educational mission, consider joining our Patreon community. Until next time, this is AI Deen Vision, illuminating the past to understand our present. Allah Hafiz.